I wanted to talk about my being alcohol free just for a moment. I just watched a video by a creator. It had 14 views. Her name is Sarah Nichols. I'll try to tag her in the comments, but she posted a video just now saying that she was 2 years alcohol free, and she had a little slideshow about why and what went into her decision. So 5 years ago, let's see, almost 5 years ago, I decided to give up sugar. And that meant giving up alcohol because the things that I really loved to drink that were alcoholic had sugar in them. Margaritas, gin and tonic, Angry Orchard cider beer. Oh my gosh. Love me some Angry Orchard cider beer. Love. But I decided, if I'm giving up sugar, I got to give that up. And so it wasn't difficult. I didn't have a drinking problem, but I love to go, have tacos and margaritas with my girlfriend. And, everybody's at a party. Maybe you go to an event where there's dancing on the dance floor, want to have a few drinks. And I really haven't missed it because I noticed, I'm 53 years old. I started noticing when I was around people who were buzzing or intoxicated that they were really obnoxious and difficult to be around. And I thought, oh, that was me. And I'm kind of obnoxious anyway. So I thought, boy, on alcohol, I must really be obnoxious. So anyway, I gave it up, but I wanted to tell you this one thing. Not long after I decided to give up alcohol, I stood in the aisle of a grocery store talking to a girlfriend of mine whose 15-year-old son was killed by a drunk driver. And it was very, very traumatizing and difficult and sad because my friend's son had actually had a stroke a year before. And he had spent a year, it was totally out of the blue. He was a healthy kid. It was totally out of the blue, and he had spent a year recovering from that stroke, learning to walk again, learning to talk again, learning to do everything again. And he had just, gotten back to where he could play basketball at school and had made this wonderful, miraculous recovery. And then he was killed by a drunk driver in the backseat of a car one night. And it dawned on me, I didn't quit drinking because I had a drinking problem, but it is a problem when you drink and you get in the car and drive, even if you're not an alcoholic. And I know we tend to think that alcoholics are the ones that are getting the DUIs and are killing people in the car, but it's not. It's the girl out after a taco night with her girlfriend who's had a big margarita and gets in the car and thinks she's fine. And she misjudges the light or misjudges the turn or misjudges the distance between herself and the car in front of her. And it could have been me. It could have been me a million times. That could have been me. And I thought, this anguish on my friend's face and this total upheaval and disruption and absolute trauma and grief that they'll have forever was caused because somebody decided to drink and get behind the wheel. And I thought, is it that important? Is it that important to have a drink with alcohol in it that you could risk killing somebody? And let me just tell you, when you're in a restaurant and there's two people at a table and they're both having a glass of wine, one of those people is driving the car home. We think drinking and driving, when we hear that, we think about, if you ask a kid, what does a stranger look like, and they draw a monster, we all know a stranger looks like somebody you can trust. A dangerous stranger for a child looks like somebody they can trust. And drinking and driving is not always the alcoholic. Oftentimes it is the person who had 2 glasses of wine at dinner and decided to get behind the wheel because their car is in the parking lot. That's how they got to the restaurant. It's how they got there. They drove there, and they're going to drive home. So I just want to tell you that you can give up the alcohol. You can. In 5 years, I have had 2 occasions where I had something to drink that had alcohol in it. About a year and a half or so after I stopped drinking and eating sugar, I was at a golf tournament, and they had these sugar-free alcohol canned things, and I drank several of those. And yes, it was fun and it was funny and I had a good time, but watching the videos that we took, I'm obnoxious. It was funny, but I was obnoxious, and I wasn't driving my car. I was on a golf cart, but nothing good comes from it. Okay, nothing good comes from it. The second time I drank, we went to Alaska, and on the Glass Dome train, I had a Bloody Mary because I love Bloody Marys, and I hadn't had a Bloody Mary in, almost 5 years. And I was getting off the train onto a bus and from the bus onto a cruise ship, and I decided, oh, well, I'm not going to be driving. I'll have a Bloody Mary. No big deal. I mean, why? And to think about how much drinks cost how bad the alcohol is for your body, the impaired judgment, the impaired inhibitions, the lack of inhibitions, and the risk that you are going to kill someone's mother, son, daughter, sister, brother, child. It's really not worth it. And here's the astonishing thing. When I go out with people and I say, I'm not drinking, or they say, what do you want? And I say, nothing. And they say, oh, first of all, I'm shocked that they ask, because I used to be a nurse in alcohol and drug recovery. I used to work with addicts. And it's shocking to me that people would press you and say, why aren't you drinking? But they know that I didn't have a drinking problem. So they say, oh, why aren't you drinking? Oh, well, I decided, to eliminate sugar, and it's really based on that. So then they start trying to help me come up with drinks that I can drink that are sugar-free. And they'll suggest a drink, and I say, no, really, it's okay. I've eliminated alcohol too. It doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't help me reach my goals. That's what I've started saying. It doesn't help me reach my goals. But that usually shuts it down. But before I say it doesn't help me reach my goals, they try to help me come up with an alcoholic drink I can drink. It's like they don't want me to be the one at the table, or they don't want somebody. It's not me. They don't want somebody at the table who's not drinking while they're drinking. And it's an odd thing, but you will be shocked to see how much social activity revolves around drinking. And when you quit drinking, you better be ready for your social circle to get smaller and be invited to fewer things. You find that the social activities that are going on outside of your house, a lot of them really exist as a reason for people to get together and drink alcohol. And when you take the alcohol out of it, nobody wants to do it. I'm curious to know if you've had a similar experience, if you've stopped drinking and then your social circle kind of dried up. It's not fun for me anymore. The things that people say and the things that people do when they're intoxicated. And my social life is different, but I tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to get behind the wheel drinking and kill someone's child. No, it won't be me.